So speaking of some products, I wanted to highlight our sponsor, Top Taste. I love their product. It tastes so great, and I know a main part of it is that it's crispy, but I like including it in things because it's so flavorful and it looks so great. So I took the Arla formula that we were using for the gluten-free pizza base, and I made it just a tiny bit softer. It probably needs to be softer yet, but I made it a tiny bit softer, and then I rolled it out, and now I'm going to have to turn my background off. 1 second, please. So here what I've done is I took the dough, I rolled it out, and then I placed the onions and some Parmesan cheese on top and rolled it up and then baked it. And so it makes this nice spiral kind of inside. It makes a nice slice of bread. So I sliced them up here, and it's firm. It's kind of it's sort of reminiscent of rye bread in texture. So if we wanted it to be more like white bread, it would need to be softer still. So
what did you put in the swirl?
The Top Taste onions and Parmesan cheese, right? And so the Parmesan adds a nice saltiness to it, and it acts like a glue to help hold it all together as it melts in the oven, right? And this baked in like.
Did you put anything else in there? Because usually when you do swirls, it falls apart at the swirl.
Nope, no, nothing else. No, nothing else. Just that it expands in the proofing. Here I got a little bit of air trapped, right? But as it proofs, there's some, if you could see the holes there, there's some proofing that took place. So that is expansion and helps hold it all together, right? So I didn't use egg wash, nothing. I just put the onions in there and sprinkled Parmesan cheese on top and just pressed it in a little bit and rolled it up. And so that it held nice together like that, right?
Looks great, Mark.
Thank you. And so I also wanted to do something more in line with the commercial breads that we're talking about today. And the breads for gluten-free tend to be almost like a batter, like a dough-like batter. And so this is a loaf that I made in a Pullman. So you can see it's sort of rectangular, and the Pullman is helpful and important with this because having the lid on traps the steam so that it can continue expanding and rising before any of the starches start to set up. Otherwise, if you just use hot steam in the oven, it gelatinizes it and then it stays really dense. So as you can see, it's quite open. It has a nice open texture. And this is with, again, the Top Taste onions. And I also put in some chia seeds in this, right, to give it sort of some interesting character. They're harder to see on the camera, but it looks like it's these nice little black specks throughout as well, right? And that adds some additional nutrition, because the thing I think that's important about adding something like onions and chia to these products is not just about visual interest or flavor. It's about adding nutrition where gluten-free products, as you mentioned in your presentation, when you often compare them, that's what they lack is nutrition. They're empty. They're just a whole bunch of starch and empty carbohydrates, right? And so that is, if people want to choose a gluten-free diet that they feel that this somehow makes them feel better and things, absolutely, all the power to them. But we also have to help produce products that then have a healthier nutritional profile as well along with that.
I fully agree. And that is probably what has changed a bit from the beginning, where you were only focusing on people suffering from celiac disease. Now there's a lot of other reasons to go into a gluten-free diet, and so raises the demand for more nutritious product in general. And I think you if you're looking just a couple of years back, there were almost no limits on how much oil you could put into a gluten-free product.
Yeah.
There was extremely levels of
Yeah.
fat,
Mhm.
just to see if you could get some. Maybe it was also due to better dough handling properties as well, but the nutrition were not in focus at all.
Mhm.
That's true.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah,
And this
yeah.
Pullman loaf, I used the Arla whey protein concentrate
And you
as
had a lid on,
well
Mark.
as pardon me?
You had a lid on the Pullman tin.
Yes, yep.
That's
It's a
amazing,
Pullman
because that's
tin.
another problem, that when you put the lid on, and when the bread hits the lid, to avoid collapsing. So it's really
Yeah, these are pretty tall Pullman pans.
yeah.
These are long. I have the measurements written down somewhere. I can
Okay.
email those to you,
Yeah,
Christian.
Interesting.
And it's one of these. We used to do a lot of this work back at ADM in our bake lab many years ago, and that has a lot of that. In terms of working with the commercial bakers, had started to fall by the wayside. So I had about 30 of these Pullman tins in the lab, and we didn't have any use for them. And rather than going into storage, I donated 10 of them to the community college here in Richland. So I knew what I had at the college that I could work with.
That's
right?
great.
So,
You had your reference.
yeah. And so my evil plan came together in the end. But yeah, and so they came up about maybe not quite 2 centimeters below the lid. And so after 20 minutes, I pulled the lid off so that I could finish the browning, right?
Okay,
And
sure.
that worked very nicely. So it could have, even if I wanted them to be taller, it could have been even more batter. But I went with a rough calculation, not knowing how much it was going to really expand. And so I could always try it again with more batter to see what we get. Yeah.
Really nice.
All right. Mark, do you have anything else to present?
No, that's all I have for today.